Hello, friends, and welcome back to Project Stargate Friends Research. I'm your host, Mark Brenner. Today, I'm here with my co-host, Vincent Moore. What's up, my brother?
Hey, how you doing? How's it going?
It's going good, man. We had a couple weeks off to just kind of go. I get to go visit my family last week, and really enjoyed being with them and down in South Mississippi. There's some nasty storms that came through there, and I mean, it was just really, really bad. We had a QLCS squall line come through, and it was tornado warned, and the area of circulation came. It was a big area, broad area of circulation, and it came right over the house. I watched it at 7:45 in the morning. It looked like a wall of blackness coming towards us. It was wild, but the tornado itself actually went about 2 miles north of us. Thank God.
I was actually a couple of weeks ago. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes I get lost with time, but yeah, we were actually heading to Tampa, Florida, and we got caught up in a lot of those storms on the way down there. So we heard about a lot of it. It didn't really, it wasn't that bad in Tampa. Like it was very sunny and it rained like maybe one day. But other than that, we heard about all the destruction from those storms. So you know, I prefer the people that were affected by it. And it's weather these days, man. It's really going out and getting out of control. It's getting worse.
I've never seen this much severe weather in years. This is a record amount of severe weather. I mean, these QLCS squall lines were just coming through one every week with embedded and discrete supercells ahead of it. It was remarkable, just unreal, just one after another. But at any rate, what you been up to as far as your research? What you been up to?
Well, you know how I always get caught up in I get caught up in anything that has to do with space or quantum physics. I always get pulled in that direction. Lately, I have been reading a book. It is a book called Life on the Edge. It's by John Joe McFadden. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the other guy's name. I think it's Jim. I think that's his name, Jim Al-Khalili. And this is a book about the area of what is called quantum biology. So I haven't really read all through the book, but in a nutshell, what quantum biology seems to be is that whenever we're studying things, we don't really know how life begins, like where the spark of life begins, how it gets here, what brings it about. And so there's a theory that life, biology, begins on the quantum level. Like some of the really weird rules of the quantum mechanics may actually spark life. So it's been a really fascinating read. And I think one of these days, this will probably be something once I read it and I actually read more of the theory that we might actually, I might actually present a little something on the podcast. It's really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
I actually think anything in quantum mechanics, once you understand it, once you can wrap your head around it, it's really fascinating stuff.
We need to do a series about quantum science one day and just try to go over if as much as we can. Just try to have an understanding because if we have a better understanding of that, maybe we'll have a better understanding of some other anomalous phenomenon.
Well, the anomalies that we actually cover, that we talk about on this podcast, people are beginning to say, well, there may be something about this. There may be something with quantum mechanics, the weirdness and the strangeness of it that makes some of these things possible. I've heard that before. I mean, you don't necessarily have people in the science community saying that right now, but even before, a lot of things, a lot of scientists are coming around to just the weirdness of quantum mechanics in general and how it affects us on the macro level. Because, we're the macro level in the universe. So, how it affects everything in the macrocosm. So I actually I always pay attention to whatever is going on in quantum physics and mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something that I'm very interested in. And I've got an announcement to make, by the way, before I forget. So in a couple weeks, we're going to be having a very special guest on our program. He's like he's actually a member of MUFON because I joined MUFON not too long ago, and so now I'm trying to get to know more people within the MUFON community and in the organization. So we're going to have Steve Hudgens Jr. On our program, and we're going to learn more about his position in MUFON, his research, and it's going to be a very interesting time. I can't wait to have him on and research with him for sure.
When did you say you're doing that podcast again?
I think it's the last. I have to double check. I think it's the last week in the month is what we talked about. I got to double check that, but it's in the next several weeks. It's happening. We're going to record a podcast with him. So definitely,
that's great. That sounds excellent.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. But also, so things that I've been reaching out lately to people. I'm looking for more researchers, dedicated researchers to join Project Stargate Friends Research and to help bring more content to the program and also more research. And I met a gentleman. His name is Jake Malcolm, and Jake he's local here in North Georgia. He lives not too far from me. And he's a musician. He's a sound expert. He's also an amateur historian, kind of like Greg a little bit. But he's really interested in the subjects that we cover at hand. And after a very lengthy interview, I decided to offer him a position in the research group, and he accepted, thankfully. And tonight, I have a very, very interesting story to tell, and he is in his first podcast with us. He's Jake Malcolm is going to help He's going to tell us all about the history of the infamous Dawson Forrest, and Dawson Forrest has a very unique history, and also I think I have very good reason to believe that Dawson Forrest, places like even Lake Lanier, the city of Cumming, the cities of Dawsonville, Coal Mountain, Ball Ground, all these areas form a sort of a triangle. And I do believe that I thought for years, I've had this idea that what if there was some sort of triangular area or a portal area, as they call them now, where there's a lot of different anomalous phenomenon. And tonight, I think we're going to take a hard look at that. And also, we're going to learn more about the Dawson Forest. So tonight, we have the Coal Mountain Triangle with our new co-host, Jake Malcolm.
That sounds excellent. I'll say I'm not a native Georgian, but when I moved here, a few years ago, I just didn't realize how many things that there are going on here in Georgia in terms of really weird phenomena and legends and all types of stuff. Like I was, it has literally been a smorgasbord of phenomena. And people will they'll tell you things offhand, word of mouth, in the South, people use word of mouth like it's part of conversation, and they just tell me all of these things. It's been really fascinating. So I'm looking forward to tonight to hearing this.
Me too, brother. Me too, man. And but anyway, I'm real excited about having this gentleman in our research group. I'm thankful to have him. He's very dynamic. He's very articulate, and he's very knowledgeable about our local legends and folklore and landmarks around here. And he's very interested in paranormal subjects. So without further ado, let's bring Jake on right now. Let's go ahead and bring him on. All right, there we go. All right, man. There he is wearing it on his profile picture. All right.
Hey, guys.
Jake.
What's going on?
Welcome to Project Stargate, man. I'm glad to have you with us, and welcome aboard, man.
Hey, I'm glad to be on board, man. I can't wait to do this. Thanks for having me.
And it's great to have you, my friend. So, we told our listeners a little bit about you just a few minutes ago, right before we brought you on. But tell us about if you don't mind, just give yourself the proper introduction that you feel like you need to give, and tell us about your background, whatever you think is relevant about your background and what your interests are and what you do for a living.
Yeah, sure. So first things first, I'm a musician, audio engineer. It's what I went to school for. It's what I do for a living. Sell instruments, play instruments, and then I work in production recording for film and bands. Now, that job, that career path has, led me down the path to a bunch of high quality audio equipment, which in turn I have used and poured into my other hobby, which is going after what we would refer to as the fringe sciences, UFO, alien, ghost especially, and especially local urban legends, which is why I'm here today.
Oh man, I tell you what, I don't believe in Vince and I have had discussions about this a lot in the past. I think coincidences are rare, actual coincidences. I think that us running across each other was more like a destiny or something, or maybe even a synchronicity. But I tell you what, man, our initial conversation we had last week, we were talking about a very mysterious place called the Dawson Forest. This place has quite a reputation and a lot of history behind it. And I found our conversation riveting, and I'd like for you, if you will, to take us through what this place is and what all is transpiring today. What are people reporting, and to just take us through it.
Sure. So Dawson Forest, in a broad term, as we know it today, is a wildlife management area. People use it for recreations, hunting, fishing, kayaking, horseback riding. What I think you're referring to, though, is probably the ruins that are scattered around from the old Air Force plant, Air Force Plant 67, which was a nuclear scientific research base up in the middle of the woods.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So I know that there's as far as right now, who controls that area? Like, is there a national forest, or what's going on? Or is it ran by the county or the city, or what's going on with all that?
So I know ownership has changed hands for the past few decades, going from the United States government over to the city of Atlanta. I believe now it is a national park, being that it is a wildlife management area. There's a lot of Parks Department out there who patrol the area.
Wow. So anyways, as far as to my understanding, historically, there's been a lot of anomalous stuff going on there. Why are people so drawn to that area?
So, a lot of people would say it is because of the former nuclear facility that is there, and that's really the cream of the crop that we'll get to. But it does have a bit of a storied past as well. Dating back to, there were legends of Native American curses on the land due to them being pushed out for the copper mining. The Dahlonega Gold Rush was one of the huge incidents that led to the Trail of Tears. They also don't talk about the copper that was found as well. So there are rumors of a curse being put on the land very early on. We come down the road, come to about the 1930s. Prohibition's huge. Moonshining is very prevalent in the area. There have been, moonshine stills that are still being found out there today that have been hacked up and riddled with bullets from when the Bureau would come through and clean them out of the forest, because the Etowah River did flow through there.
Wow.
In 1959, the United States Air Force announced a project within themselves, obviously not out to the public, to create a nuclear-powered B-36 bomber. Those were the bombers with the propellers on the back of the wings. they picked several locations to prepare the individual parts for this bomber. Dayton, Ohio, the Air Force Base out there, and then here they were going to build the engine. Unfortunately, what they found out was that building that engine with that nuclear reactor and putting it into an airplane, it just couldn't take off. It was too heavy, which is kind of where the story starts with the odd happenings in the forest. There are all these facilities out there. We all know they quit working on the airplane engine, but why are they still there? Why are they still working? This was back in the 1960s after that initial project had failed. Rumors have gone around. First, we know that they were irradiating woods and different biological materials. They made something called lockwood, which was a radioactive wood that was turned into a very hard wood. It was used in floors in some buildings. I believe actually in Marietta at the Lockheed plant down there. So what happened after that, we don't know what went on in those buildings, and especially underground. The facility goes down several stories underground, and the way they accomplished that was
How far is it supposed to go down there?
So I heard 8 stories from a local. When I did my research, all I could find was 4 stories. So I don't know if saying 8 stories he meant maybe 4 above ground and then 4 below, because there are definitely buildings there that did go up 4 stories above ground.
Do you have any pictures that you could share with our our viewers on YouTube?
Sure. Actually, so I do have some photos here. Let me find them.
That way, me, you, and Vince can kind of sit there, and we can have a little bit more of me and Vince can have something more to look at and illustrate some of this for us and our viewers. Thank you.
Actually, would you guys want to watch a video?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So what I have, if I can get this to load here from YouTube, give proper credit where credit's due, is a 1959 government reel of the facility in operation.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Yeah. I definitely want to see that. Definitely.
Sure.
Hit it.
All right. Let me pull it up here.
This is exciting, Vince. I feel like I'm in elementary school.
Getting it to load here. Here we go. Now, if I screen share this, are you going to be able to hear what is going through?
We should be able to, but I'm not sure. If not, at least we'll be able to see, have an idea of what you're talking about.
Sure. So let me go ahead here and let's see, screen share. All right, everyone see that? We get to the video here. So this is on a website, actually. This is only in your state. We use this website actually a lot to find information on this place.
Vince, can you see it good?
Yeah, I can see it.
And for the listeners, we are looking at a video of a historic video, an archive video of the Dawson Forrest installation. Go ahead.
So here we go. It's 11 minutes and 2 seconds long. So you guys just, whenever you guys want to skip ahead to something, if you guys want to go back, whatever, just let me know.
Okay, go ahead. Awesome. Yep.
That classic 1950s government reel stock footage.
Wow, this is going to be neat.
It really is. So that is still the road that you go into the forest on.
I'm actually not seeing anything on my end. Are you seeing anything, Vince?
Oh,
You know what? Right now, I see a lot of colors. I don't see. I saw it before, but I don't know.
Yeah, I see. It looks like your desktop.
Interesting. So it's not showing the video.
Negative.
Hmm.
That's weird.
But we
Very
often
interesting.
We often have really strange glitches whenever we're talking about stuff.
Yeah, we do.
That's the Men in Black coming for us. Well, for anyone interested, if you go to YouTube, it is Dawson Forrest Nuclear Aircraft Laboratory full video. That is the
hold on. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up so we can all see it. Hang on just a minute. It's under Dawson Forrest.
Yep. Dawson Forrest or Dawsonville, Georgia Nuclear Aircraft Laboratory, 1959 full video.
Okay, one moment. Let me see if I can pull this. I should be able to. I should be able to.
Sure.
Do this. All right, here we go. I think I found it.
That is, it's the one that's 11 minutes and 2 seconds.
Okay, let me find it. 11 minutes and 2 seconds. I found it. Hang on just a minute.
Awesome.
Actually, no, this is just a website.
Is it the only in your state website?
Let's see. Yes.
Yeah, scroll down. It's on that website.
Cool. Right on. All right, here we go. Let me go ahead and pull this up. And again, for the listeners, this video that we're gonna take a look at and comment on is all about this laboratory that Jake was sharing with us just a moment ago. Let's see if let me see if we can get audio on this so everybody can hear it. All right, can everybody see my screen?
I see it.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Can you hear it?
Can't hear it.
Yeah, I can see it, but I can't hear it. Yeah, this is definitely vintage U.S. government footage.
Yeah. Check out the sign here. If that doesn't scream 1950s Air Force air travel, I don't know what does.
I know. It's got like one of those Nevada style atomic cafe looking signs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to give it an illustration for everybody. Let's see what else happens here.
Sure. So that's the road that you still drive into today.
Wow.
11,000 acres.
11,000?
11,000 acres. So if you stop the video right there, let's see. If I share I'm new to Skype. If I share my screen, will yours go away?
I don't know. Try it.
Well, let's see here. Let me find the picture because I have a picture of that building, that square building that you see there on the left.
Yes.
Is
right here.
Yep.
What is that building?
So that, to my knowledge, was an elevator shaft to get to the underground portion of the facility.
Oh.
So, if you can see my screen here, can you guys see these buildings?
No, all I see is your desktop.
Really? All right, that's something I'm going to have to figure out then. Anyway, just about everything in that picture that you see is still there today, except for the what looks like metal sheeted side building or whatever you want to call it. That was later dismantled.
Oh, okay.
But that elevator shaft the housing for the elevator shaft is still there?
It is still there, and the shaft going down is still there too, but the way to get in is buried.
So the entrance to that shaft is right here, where I'm on this little square-looking building thing, this little nub.
Yep.
Okay. And this right here, what was this?
Hang on, we can't see your screen anymore. I think when I did it, it knocked you off. My bad.
It's okay. Here we go. All right.
There we go.
So this right here, this thing right here, what is that?
That is a blast wall. So the reactor is on the other side there in that building to your right that we can just see the outline of.
Let me play the video just a little bit more, see if it'll. All right, here we go. There we go. I'm gonna pause it. Pause the video again. And I'm seeing that. So the reactor is in here, right? Where's it? No. Okay.
So what is over in, and we'll get to it later in the video. This is just the only landscape view of this area, so I thought I'd take a moment to point it out. That long wall, giant. Behind that is a retaining tank, and that held the basically nuclear waste, the water coming from the reactor pool and all that. That wall was there to protect it in case of a blast from the main building. So that's what that wall is there for.
Okay. Right on. All right, let's continue with this video. I want to see what else this thing's got.
So you what? Just play it. Stop it when you have a question, and I'll see if I can answer it.
Okay. Right on. Vince, let me know if you need me to stop it also.
Oh, no, yeah, I will. So they were making you said they were making the part for this this plane, the bomber.
They were making the engine here.
Right.
Yep. So the installation went down, in fact, possibly eight or more stories. Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
4 to 8 stories. 4 to 8 stories. And here's what they did. And the best way you could cover evidence of any project is exactly what they did. They built it next to a river, buried it underground, pumped all the water out. When the project was done, turned the pumps off, everything's gone.
Holy smokes, man. Wow. Let's continue this video. Let's dissect this video.
Go for it. I think that's the reactor right there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, or it could be. I don't know what a nuclear reactor really looks like. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I don't. Yeah.
I'm just going by memory of photographs that I've seen.
Well, I'll defer to your good judgment, kind sir.
Sure. All of that looks so OSHA certified.
No kidding.
See, so I was telling Mark that I'm not a native Georgian, so I would not have imagined. I moved to Atlanta from Philadelphia a couple of years ago, and I wouldn't have imagined there was anything like this anywhere near Atlanta. Like I'd never that it would be anything like this at all.
You just don't think about it.
The residents at the time had no idea either when the reactor went live.
Really? So they just kind of snuck
they all fled town.
Oh wow!
Wow. I didn't know that.
Do you think that is maybe the cause of when you begin to hear some of these stories, or if you have phenomena that's happening, do you think that the fact that this facility just appeared out of nowhere, with the locals not knowing about it, that they begin to talk about these things? Is this some of the things that they talk about?
It really depends, because as you know, after we get through this video, we'll get into the more recent history and some of the things that have happened up there. Could it be? Very possibly. I just think that it was a very dense, inconveniently wooded area for, for the next stage of what's to come. That being said, there are definitely some weird things that happen in that forest that can't be explained by that. So I think the true answer is we don't know.
Right.
And we're gonna get deep into that here in a little bit of it. After we watch it, we dissect this video. I want to get into that. I really want to get into that, brother.
Sure.
Let's see what else happened. Now look at this. We stopped at a good point here. Here's that big building. Yep. What looks like that building again. And it goes down. I'm assuming it goes down like this. They just go straight down. 4 to 8 stories.
This is tricky right here because there are two buildings that you'll see that look very similar. And being that it was a government funded and constructed project, they probably just have mass, blueprints of certain buildings. This is either, yes, that building, or this was a building where they would store and back a train into to carry equipment and supplies around the facility.
Wow. Okay, cool. Let's see what else. Let's see what else we got here.
Yep. There's our wall.
So that was the reactor. That was definitely.
Yes, that was the reactor. So, all your EPA fans are going to get really pissed off right now.
Let's hear it.
They stored the nuclear waste in that big tank behind that wall, and when they deemed it safe, this was a pit that they filled up with a bunch of rocks.
Wow.
Had a big hose. Let her go.
That should anger all of us. Actually.
Yeah.
Everybody should be concerned about that, man. That's that is awful.
Absolutely.
Unreal, man. That's kind of like what happened. It's kind of similar to what happened up in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, when they just let all that TNT making chemicals just seep into the ground, and God only knows what that did to the wildlife and other things.
Absolutely.
And there does seem to be, in some cases, a link between extreme environmental damage like that and paranormal phenomenon. There seems to be a link. I just can't put my finger on it. Let's see what else happens here.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Did you,
Mark, are you hearing any of that?
I'm hearing it.
Okay, awesome.
But really and truthfully, I just, even though we can't hear it, I mean, everyone else can't hear it. I want people to be able to, who are looking at our YouTube channel, to just be able to kind of illustrate what we're talking about here. So here we go.
I just want to just correct me if I get any of this wrong, because I'm going by memory of this video as well.
Right on, man. Right on. Here we go.
Go for it. This would be the Etowah River, and that's where they would pump the fresh water in. It's a 2-story block building. They also have their own water treatment facilities there. They just look like a water treatment facility to me. Nothing suspicious.
I bet you that's the. I bet you this is that building. Now what we're seeing here on the video is a long building with lots of bay doors, big bay doors. I wonder if that's the building that you were talking about earlier, where they were housed the trains in.
So this is actually the fire department. And yep. So this is the fire department that we were talking about. And we can see here that the way we were able to find this in the park is due to the slants or the ramps going into the foundation there. So we were able to find that foundation with those ramps in those positions.
Okay. All right. Right on, man.
And that's actually in the main parking lot at the park. You use those ramps to drive up and park.
That is so cool. We got to go there. It's just right down the road from my house. It's probably about 15, 20 minutes from my house. Literally.
Likewise.
All right, let's see what else happens.
Go for it. So that foundation, that warehouse foundation, is still there as well.
If that doesn't look 1950s.
No kidding, man.
Haircut and everything. So just a administrative building that is across the street from where the fire department is, in the main park. Nothing more to say about it other than it's just a foundation now.
Wow, this is a very complex operation.
They had their own weather station. up there.
Yeah, they did. They had all kinds of stuff. They had a weather station. They had all kinds of stuff.
So how would I guess in a historical sense, if you have all of this stuff going on, all of these things being built, how does it go unnoticed?
It's in the middle of nowhere. You know, if you think about Dawsonville and that general area back in those times, there was really not much of anything. It was just a big expanse of woods with a small city center and some people pot-marked in cabins in small houses here and there, farms, but that was it. If you needed a place where you could build a reactor on the East Coast without it going unnoticed, you know, surrounded by mountains, water right there, it was perfect.
Right.
Wow. Let's see what else happens here.
You can still find, so these 3 pipes that are sticking out of the ground that we're looking at, that they're testing, shoving what I think is a Geiger counter back into them. Those pipes are still sticking out of the ground in various areas of the park today.
Really?
Yep, so
Wow.
you can still see those. They're all welded shut, or at least I couldn't pull them off. So.
When you went out here, did you bring any type of Geiger counter or anything like that?
I unfortunately did not have the IQ at the time to do that. So no, I did not.
I mean, honestly though, I would think that might be something to actually go and bring just to see exactly what results you might get, what data you may get from that.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure the Geiger counter is going to give you something.
Oh yeah, it will. And Mark, if you would go back to that landscape we just saw, and if we look at some pictures of modern day Dawson Forrest, you'll see this large center building in the middle. That is the hot cell building where a lot of the experiments were conducted. That is still fully intact today.
Now, what kind of, you said experiments, you're talking about experiments. Can you elaborate on that?
You know, past the aircraft engine, past the irradiating wood, I can't, but there were other things that supposedly went on in there. You know, some people say they went as far as irradiating animals. Other people think that they went so far as to irradiate humans to see what the radiation level was that was maximum that they could sustain. That sounds a bit far-fetched to me. I would think that if something was going on like that, we would probably have something out there by now. So that I don't know. I do know that there were some clandestine experiments that happened in there. What they were besides Lockwood, airplane engines, and possible animals of the woods, I don't know.
Oh, geez, that's awful. I mean, you know, the government used to do stuff like that from time to time, and
Sure.
they've been caught, with detonating nuclear devices close to populated areas. I mean, John Wayne, the actor, was near Groom Lake, and he was making a movie about Genghis Khan, and that's where people think he got his cancer from. Or partially.
I'm sure.
He was also a smoker. I mean, everybody knows that. But
yeah.
At any rate,
not to get off topic, but I think I had heard a story about that. Actually, a large amount of the actors got cancer, didn't they?
I think so.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure, but that's a story for another time.
That it is. Let's continue watching this video.
Yep. High tech right there.
That's going to be the official uniform right there for Project Stargate. And when we investigate, we're going to all have uniforms. Yeah.
And it's going to be those 1950s lab coats with the goggles.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got his tongs on a spring there. He's ready.
I know, man. He's decking it out. Yeah, so archaic.
It is. It really is.
That's a hell of a way to weld right there, man.
No kidding.
It's got this
No.
robot welding. It's showing a video of a robot welding from the 50s.
Well, actually, I don't think that's actually a robot. I think those are just poles that he can move and grab with. I don't think there's any electronics going on there.
Could be.
Yeah, actually, I think that the way that it was moving, I don't think that was a robot. It wasn't precise enough.
Could be.
So right now we're underground in this video, these facilities.
This is really interesting.
Yeah, I encourage anyone out there to go watch it. You can find the video all over the place. The first place it'll come up is on this this Only in Your Town website, but Dawsonville, Georgia Nuclear Aircraft Laboratory. Look it up.
I should put a link to this on our Facebook page.
Absolutely should.
I think I will. Wow. This is really
Yep,
old.
here's our railroad. So not extremely large railroad, but still a railroad.
There it is.
There it is.
That's the
That's the rail building.
Yep. The train building.
Right there, right by the reactor. Let's see if I can do something.
Let's stop the video. I want to stop the
Sure.
video right here and just
Sure.
I want to have a discussion about this. So,
Absolutely.
what happens after? When does this installation get shut down?
So I believe it was sometime in the 70s or 80s.
And why? And why? That's the big part. I should have asked why also.
So the why, that unfortunately I can't tell you that there was some type of meltdown, and I can't tell you that there was some type of employee uprising or something. The simple why is simple why of why every project is shut down, and that's simply funding. At least that's how the story goes. People showed up one day to the laboratory. The head of the base or the lab or whatever you want to call them, don't know the professional title, was standing out front with an administrative desk, a secretary, and a scientist, giving everyone their last check, saying project's over, go home, project's over, go home. No one got in there to get their personal effects and anything. They just showed up, said go home.
Wow.
And I heard that firsthand from a former employee there up in Dawsonville.
Wow, it was just very abrupt, it sounds like.
Very abrupt. They shut pumps off, the water rose, they destroyed and dismantled the buildings that they could. The ones that they couldn't, they just left. So that's how it ended.
Wow. Vince, what do you think about all this, man?
I mean, it's honestly, when I was talking earlier about that documentary, this is very similar to whatever they had in Ohio. There's a place I do believe it's called Helltown. I will check on that, but it was kind of the same thing. They had like an underground facility, and nobody really knew what they did in it, but it just kind of just showed up, and then all of a sudden they just shut it down, and that just sounds real. I mean, that really kind of sounds spooky. I know it's the military, but it sounds spooky. Like the military does spooky stuff all the time, though. So
sure.
But it just shows up in this forest, and you're handling nuclear waste, and there's no telling even at the time when we're just really getting into, nuclear technology, there's no telling how it actually affected the area or the state or even this part of the country.
Sure, and that was back in 1959. We were fresh into it.
Right. And we didn't necessarily understand it. And now, we know that there's some inherent dangers tied to using nuclear technology, just playing around with it.
Absolutely. You got to know what you're doing.
That we do. I think this is a good place to stop and take a break. But when we come back, I want to talk about the anomalous phenomenon that seems to occur here to this day, and then I want to get into talking about the Coal Mountain Triangle.
Sure, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. You're listening to Project Stargate Friends Research, and we're talking about the Dawson Forrest area and installation, and the Coal Mountain Triangle, and we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. You're listening to Project Stargate Friends Research. This is Mark Brenner with Jake Malcolm and Vincent Moore, and we are about to bring on the spooky woo here, talking about the Dawson Forrest installation in the Dawson Forrest area. Jake, there's a lot of high strangeness that occurs in this area. Let's bring on the spooky woo. I'm ready for it, man. Are you ready, Vince?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Let's do it, Jake. Hit it.
All right. So I'm going to talk about first one of my favorite subjects when we talk about anything having to do with this type of paranormal factor or fringe research factor, and that would be the powers that be that are still around it, namely the men in black, if you will, that are in Dawson Forrest, supposedly in Dawson Forrest. From my experience,
the man in black, as in the man in black, as in shut the heck up. Don't talk about UFOs or weird stuff in general.
Well, that's what we've dubbed. That's what we've dubbed them. We've dubbed them more of the tactical men in black, just from what they wear. Now they could be something having to do with fish and wildlife, but when I tell the story here, you'll see that it's a fairly unusual agency, if it is an agency, just in the way they operate. We'll go back here. This is. Just made myself feel a little old there. We go back about a decade. I was 16 in the forest with a friend of mine. This was our first trip up there. We drove across a bridge, stopped, thought river was nearby. We're going to get out. We're going to look for the main pump house building, which we saw in the video, the two-tiered block building. We get out. We begin hiking. Squelching day, 100 plus degrees, humid with, whatever the heat index was. So anyway, we're hike several miles, come back to the truck, desolate, didn't find anything, dripping sweat, chugging water, the whole 9 yards. Sitting in the truck, we're not in there for more than 30 seconds. Doors haven't been closed for 30 seconds. We hear tick, tick, tick on the door and on the driver's side door.
Wow.
And my friend turns around, rolls the window down. There's a gentleman. He was in khaki cargo pants, hiking pants, black button-up tactical shirt buttoned all the way up, and a black tactical hat with the Velcro but no patch on it.
Wow.
He asked, "What are you boys doing out there?
We all creeped out
here?" Oh yeah. We were taken a bit aback just because we didn't see where he was coming from. We were on this stretch of road with nothing around us. Dead silent in the woods.
What y'all been smoking there, boy?
Oh, no kidding, right? Yeah, no, it was before all that. So, and the other thing which was odd is, we're looking at this guy and he's so close to us and he doesn't have a drop of sweat on him. He doesn't have a backpack, a canteen. He doesn't even have a water bottle out there in this heat. So either someone came up and dropped him off and he hid underneath the truck until we showed up, which his uniform was like perfect. I mean, no wrinkles, anything. Anyway, so he knocks on the window, and my friend, whose name's Chris, I'll give him a shout out here just because I want the world to know how this story went.
What's up, Chris?
What's up, Chris? So anyway, He says, "What are you boys doing out here?" I was going to tell him that we were looking for a spot to go hunting, fishing, etc. Chris decides to tell him the truth. We're looking for the nuclear facility. Yeah.
Oh boy, he let the cat right out of the bag.
Right, the cat wasn't even in the bag. So this gentleman, this whoever he was, military police looking dude, says, "Oh, you're going to want to go straight down the road, several miles, whatever he said. You're going to come to a T section in the road. You're going to turn right, go down there. You won't be able to miss it. Big black building."
Wow.
Awesome.
He just helped
Thanks. He just helped us, right? That's what we thought. So he turns to me and says, "What do you think?" I turn to him and say, "Sounds like a good idea." We turn back to thank the guy. He's gone.
Gone. Wow.
Gone.
You didn't hear him. Okay, so you drove away. Let me get this straight. You guys drove away from where you encountered this guy, this dude, security guy. Would you? It sounds kind of like you're describing like the camo dudes at Area 51 or Grim Lake, kind of like.
It does seem like he's a camo dude. Now that you mention that, I completely forgot about that. Those guys that kind of show up.
Security, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. That roll up in their own trucks, and except he didn't have a vehicle. So, but we'll get to the weirder part of that story. So we get to the end of the road and get to where he said, and we see the sign says, "Thank you for visiting Dawson Forrest, WMA, game station, whatever." So he had directed us to the exit of the forest.
I somehow knew that's how that was going to turn out. He seemed way too helpful. Like, oh, was government being helpful like that? Oh, okay.
Right.
Hey, he's a good old boy, wasn't he?
He's good old. So
good old boy. No.
Needed no harm. So they.
I'll keep my day job, Vince. I'll keep my day job, brother.
So he directed you right out of town, basically.
Right out of town, and
That's
we
hysterical.
went back. I know, right? We should have seen it coming. We should have known. And here's what happened: we ended up being close where we were looking. We were just on the wrong side of the river.
Wow, that's incredible. And then he just freaking disappears. That's just unreal. That's a classic Men in Black like experience. Yeah. Now, do you remember what his face looked like? I'm sorry, Vince.
Oh, go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. That's actually a better question than I was going to ask.
Sure. So I remember what his face looked like as well as you can in your mind's eye. I do know either, he was wearing a hat, really close shaved, or no hair, clean shaven. And he had those Oakley cop sunglasses that whenever you see him, you're going to get a ticket.
Right.
So that's pretty much what he looked like. The sunglasses were pretty much the only outdoor hiking anything that he had. Which I want to stress that part. We're in the middle of the woods, and this guy didn't have anything.
Yeah, and it's a hot day, and he's not sweating or because listen, on a hot day here, especially down here, I walk outside and in 30 seconds I'm drenched.
Oh yeah.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was definitely odd.
But this story you said gets weirder. What happens?
Yeah. So that is where I was going with that is where it gets weirder is that we were actually right by the main pump house that we were looking for. We were just looking in the wrong area of it. We were searching the wrong area, so we had gotten pretty close to it before he said anything. In the fall, if you go there, it's perfectly obvious where it is, but in the summer, you can see it from the road in the fall. During the summer, it's all overgrown. You just kind of have to guess.
Is that the only time that you've been there, or was this part of the series?
No. This was a every week occurrence for my, let's see, I was 16, 17, up to 18 years old, just about. So we were up there all the time, whether we were looking at the nuclear facility or we were just up there camping out. So we became very familiar with it, but only had a few run-ins definitive run-ins with those people. We've definitely had weird people. You know, a perfect example in a little bit of a weird incident was we were hiking. Well, I guess we can classify this in the same category. We're going through where we see where that elevator shaft was in the previous video. You know, the block building, that was where the main reactor was. The way you get to it, you drive down a dirt road, you kind of crest the hill, come down, it's in a valley, and there's a road looking over it on the hill. So we're down there and we're hanging out and we're exploring for the first time. This was about a week after our first incident with, we'll call him Dawson Forrest Camo Dude, DFCD for short. This truck crests the hill, just a red Chevrolet pickup truck, you know, plain as can be, sat on top of the hill and just sat on top of the hill and watched us while we were walking around down there.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And no one got out.
You think it was them?
You know, it actually happened 2 more times after that, the same truck that we were down there. So that's what, you know, I didn't think it was up until this point. I didn't think they were related up until I started to talk this point. And you brought up the camo dudes and the way they like to pull up in their white pickup trucks and watch. So could be just red was on sale that day. Who knows?
Camo Dude special, the red truck.
The red Chevrolet.
The red Chevy.
The last experience we had with these guys was around the last time we started heavily messing with the nuclear facility up there. Just because, you know, we started getting busy. We were getting older. Everyone had full-time jobs. We still went up there to camp and, you know, all that fun stuff, but we never spent 8 to 12-hour days up there like we used to. Anyway, hiking through the woods, we found on an Urban Explorer website the coordinates to the main tunnel entrance.
Oh, wow.
Followed it into the woods. They had actually marked it with a pink ribbon tied above a tree where it was. So that's how we found it. There's a piece of concrete sticking out of the ground. We started digging against the wall. Started digging, got a few feet down, giant boulder. A couple 100 pounds, maybe 200-300 pounds. Take it, roll the first one out. Dig another couple feet. Another boulder.
Wow.
This one another little bit bigger. Roll it out. A couple more. So we get 8 feet down. Throw out the third boulder.
Dang.
Sun's going down. We're digging. One of the guys takes a shovel, puts it up against the wall. Shovel slips under the wall, top of the door. I should say that this was a 2-day process for us to dig this up.
Wow.
So we say it's dark. We don't want to go when it's dark. We don't want to go in there when there could be coyotes or boar or whatever running around up there. So we say we're going to come back the next day. About 10 to 12 hours later, we come back. The whole thing is filled in. Boulders right back where they were. Everything was filled in. Someone was watching us the entire time.
Oh, wow. You said that was 2 days of work that you did to dig it out.
2 days of work that they completely filled it in. All the boulders were back there because we thought, hey, at least, you know, this will be a lot easier without the boulders. You know, each of the boulders took us a lot of time to get out. But we stuck the first shovel in and we were going to go again. We hit the boulder and we said, screw this.
Wow.
So, yeah, someone was watching us the whole time. If you read some of the stories online, there are reports of people bumping into guys in military-style ghillie suits, hiding in the woods, off trails near those facilities. That could just be overzealous hunters, but I don't think they were the full military-style ghillie suits out there.
What in the world are they hiding? What in God's name are they hiding?
So they could be hiding whatever documentation, equipment, etc., that was left behind there. They could be covering up the fact that there possibly is a radiation level higher than safe up there. That I don't believe. I do believe the radiation level is relatively safe due to the fact that they are still constantly monitoring it. The other thing they could simply be doing is trying to keep people from going in there and hurting themselves. But if that were the case, it seems like that they would probably just, completely seal it off one way or put no trespassing signs all around it. Mind you, there's only one spot up here in the woods that has a no trespassing sign, and that is the hot cell building. Everything else is you just hike through the woods and find it.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds relatively easy to get to. So if they really wanted to keep people out, they would do what the government facilities normally do. They put fences in front of fences, in front of barbed wire, in front of fences.
Sure.
That kind of stuff. Yeah.
And that has been done on one building there, and that is the hot cell building, that concrete building where the experiments were conducted mostly. There is a 3-layer fence with radiation detectors hanging off the fence in the main park. That is in the main parking lot of the park, though, so it is very accessible. It's very easy to see, and actually those fences are relatively new. The official story that I heard from a park ranger, we actually spoke with a park ranger up there who was telling us, some of the history about it up there. He wasn't as reserved as most people. He told us that the reason they barbed wire that is because back in the day, the ROTC kids used to rappel off the building, and one of them got hurt and tried to sue the county. That was his story. I don't know if that's true, though.
Wow. Man.
But that'll just give you a reference to how large this building is. It's a building you can rappel down.
Yeah, it looked pretty big in the pictures we saw. At least I thought it did, Vince.
Yeah, it did. My question was, I know you grew up in an area. Was there ever a time though where you felt uneasy? Like, did the guy just showing up out of thin air just make you feel uneasy, or was it just one of those things and you keep it moving?
So the guy showing up out of thin air the first time, we did not think about until down the road when we were telling the story again to someone else, and then we kind of realized that was odd. The guys in the pickup trucks that would crest the hill and watch us there, the first time we just thought that someone was coming down there to do something they weren't supposed to. We just happened to be there, so they were trying to come up with a B plan of where to go. The second and third time that happened with the truck, we thought it was pretty creepy, and we would definitely go down there with larger groups of people, 2 or 3 cars worth of people to explore around down there. It should be noted that in that same area, actually on top of that elevator shaft building, they had buried a large portion of it, so there's a mound of dirt. You can climb to the top of it. We came down there one time and were kind of chased out by some people in a different truck. Came back later, and we did find on top of the building what looked to be some type of teepee-like altar in the middle of a pentagram.
Oh,
with,
wow.
Ashes in the middle of it.
Oh, no.
So there is definitely someone attempting to practice devil worship up there.
Oh, man. Dude, it's crazy you said that, man. I am not surprised. This is really getting weirder and weirder and weirder, man. That's where these roads go, man. The more further you go down these roads, the weirder it gets.
Sometimes do you think though that because you hear stories like this, like in some places like this, they'll have a satanic altar. Do you think that might be a way to keep people out? Because people inherently have an innate fear of anything satanic. Or do you think it's legitimate rituals that they're having there?
I've never pondered that question before to myself. It's actually a very good question. It did a pretty bad job of keeping us out of there, if that is what they're
Right.
intending to do.
Yeah.
But then again, we were stupid 16 through 18-year-olds going up there in high school. At that point, I've been up there more recently doing more tame stuff. But that's a really good question. I would think that there is someone genuinely trying to practice some type of satanic worship up there.
I mean, that happens too. I was just asking.
Sure.
I mean, that happens in a lot of places. I went to college, and the college I went to, which I'm not going to name on here, but they would have
Sure.
that. You see that stuff every once in a while. Some of the old buildings. So
Absolutely.
I think I know where you're talking about. I think I do, and I've heard similar stories about
but
this
we should
area.
we should actually probably talk about my college. We'll do that. I'll reveal that. We'll talk about my college eventually. There's a lot of weird stuff there too, a lot of stories, but that's for another show.
Yeah.
We're on this show. So, what about some of the other? Did you experience anything else strange, like in those woods?
Yeah,
Like,
tell us some
they
more.
look
Tell us
they
something
look
more.
very dense. Like the woods look
Yeah.
very dense.
So the thing about those woods,
I'm getting scared, man.
They are very dense. A lot of those trees were actually planted to cover up a lot of where they had bulldozed and destroyed trees in the area to turn it back into a forest. So actually, if you go out there, you can see some areas where there are patches of trees where they're just a straight line. You can see that they just laid them in a grid.
Right.
But yes, to answer your question, yes, one of the weirder experiences I've had out there was we were driving through the road. We weren't doing any nuclear facility stuff or anything that day. We were just out there four-wheeling. I don't think you're allowed to anymore, four-wheeling trails up there that we would drive trucks and Jeeps and all that fun stuff. Came to a spillway in the river, and there was a woman standing there, an elderly woman, mid-60s, 70s,
Wow.
completely naked, gray hair, and we're like,
Crazy.
what the hell is this? So we kind of drove around her. She wasn't standing in the middle. Continued going several miles down the road. Come to an intersection in the middle of the road, and she's standing right there again. And we didn't think anything about it then, but how did she cover all that ground in that amount of time, especially barefoot and naked out there?
Must be a good runner.
How did she react to you when you encountered her?
Nothing, emotionless, completely still. We had some people tell us that sounded like it was the woman of the woods, I think they called it up there. But I think, to my understanding, every forest has a woman of the woods, a spirit that type
the
thing.
banshee.
But I don't know much about that or anything. I just know that it was very odd, from one place to another that she was there.
Yeah, and how much? Yeah, how much? You might have said before, but how much ground do you think that you covered when you first saw her to when you saw her?
Several miles for sure. It was less than 10 miles, probably somewhere between 3 and 5 miles that we covered.
Well, I can't imagine that an old naked woman would cover that much ground that quickly.
Well, unless there was just a group of nudist campers up there or something that we didn't know about. But it was definitely a very odd happenstance if it wasn't paranormal. And the thing about these stories is we never went into those woods alone, so all of these stories have multiple witnesses that you could ask about, and they'll tell you about the same story, when they feel like talking about it.
I have a question, actually.
Go for it.
So I've heard over the years, of rumors of Dogman, Bigfoot, and even UFO sightings. Is there any truth to that, or are you familiar with anything like that?
Dogman, I haven't heard of. I've heard of Bigfoot up there. In fact, we encountered some people who claim to be part of the BFRO up there. So I have heard of Sasquatch and Bigfoot sightings up there. UFO sightings, it is a dark forest. There is a history of radiation up there, and we have seen lights in the sky, strange lights in the sky, kind of darting around, and not really moving with any type of direction. But, again, it's one of those things when it happens to you, when it happens to us, we don't think much of it at that time. So UFOs, yes. Dogman, I mean, who knows what kind of coyotes are up there with that radiation.
Yeah, man. That is some wild stuff, bro. Vince, you had some theories, man, about this stuff. Can you tell us about what you've come up with?
Well, most of the time, whenever I'm reading about this or somebody talks about it, a lot of the strange things happen when you have things that provide some type of energy. So anything nuclear, if you have anything that has nuclear technology or any nuclear waste, it's going to give off some type of energy. Now, granted, there's been weird stories. I guess there's been weird stories before that, but I think that some of these things get exacerbated whenever you have some type of something that gives off steady energy. And so that's what I was asking before, if you ever went up there with a Geiger counter, because then you're not, there's no telling how much radiation these things give off. Like you have said that it probably isn't lethal, but if that place was there for a while, it probably gave off enough radiation to where it might either attract things or manifest things or whatever it has to do in order for these weird things to happen. That's what I thought.
That's what I think happened in Point Pleasant, in the TNT area.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
Absolutely.
type of probably in places around the world where you just have some type of energy source and these weird things happen. But then again, it's also strange that they would even put a nuclear facility in the middle of nowhere. Well, not strange, because you said that there's a lot of woods out there and nobody's there, but that's still we just plop this in the middle of Georgia and we're good to go. We're going to just do whatever we do. So I think that's kind of weird. But that was generally my theory.
Yeah. So the location is the middle of nowhere, but it's the closest middle of nowhere to Lockheed Martin and Marietta. So I think that played a role in where they were putting the actual location. As for the energy, that area has already had a storied past. Like I said, given the tribes that were forced out of that area, people warring over mining rights and such. Then that facility moves in. And something I forgot to mention was in the 90s into I think 2010 was probably the last confirmed. There were 2008 or 2010. There were several murders that had taken place up there in the woods, or at least the bodies of victims found up there. Levi Frady being, I believe, the first one, and the most prevalent one. And then a few other cases of hikers that had gone missing and bodies found up there as well. So there's definitely some dark energy attracted around there.
As I'll get into later, with all that being said, gentlemen, I theorize that this is a part, even a small part of a much bigger phenomenon and something that's going on in North Georgia. But continue.
Yeah, so it's just a hotbed of activity. It attracts every type of anything you can imagine. And it is, when you get up there and you're there in the middle of the night. I've been out in the middle of the night in a lot of places, right? I'm a late owl in a lot of middle of nowheres, but in the middle of nowhere, it always feels like someone or something is watching you or right behind you. So there is something else going on up there, and it's very possible that the advanced energy levels would be attracting that to feed off of.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, because I like camping and I like the outdoors and stuff, and I've been out, and some places are fine, you don't think about it, but then some places you're sitting there, you're like, man, this is, the hairs raise up on the back of your neck, and you're like, this is really strange. This really feels strange, that weird feeling that you get, that somebody's sitting there looking at you.
Yeah, definitely. Everywhere you go up there, you're not alone. At least you don't feel it. And what that is, I couldn't tell you. I had thought that maybe it was just the just me being me and knowing the history of it until we started bringing people out there who we weren't telling the history of it and just taking them out there to go camping or have a party in the woods or whatever we did in high school. And a lot of people felt very uncomfortable up there.
I bet.
Because once I moved here and I started hearing all these stories, I'm interested to hear about how you think this connects with other things that you hear. Because the first place I heard about when I got here was Lake Lanier, and
Sure.
everybody in this area, because I live in Gwinnett County, and everybody in
Sure.
Gwinnett County, everybody in Forsyth County talks about Lake Lanier. So how do you think that this connects to the bigger picture, like a bigger picture? Maybe there's something big happening in Georgia.
There definitely
So
is.
there definitely is. As for Lake Lanier, I think what a lot of people refer to as the hauntings of Lake Lanier are not what they say, the bodies being pulled underwater by spirits and such. That part I don't believe is the case, mainly because the stories that have led up to that are false. I'm talking about flooding the town with people and all that stuff is all false. However, I do believe the area around it does have some sort of paranormal activity. That being, there are several houses on the lake that are hotbeds for activity. There are people that I have seen in Lake Lanier centered Facebook groups that have posted photographs of weird lights in the sky. So there is definitely something interesting going on around it. As for the lake itself, I don't believe the lake itself is haunted. I've swam in it every year for 26 years, and so far so good.
You're still here, right?
I'm still here, and I'm going to be swimming in it this year again.
Yeah, and if you were a ghost, this would be the greatest. This would be the greatest proof we'd ever had. We're sitting on a podcast talking to you. So I guess
Man, what would you guys do if I just disappeared right now?
I've seen these pictures. I've seen a lot. I've heard a lot of stories about when the water level gets low. There's steeples that are poking out of the water and stuff like that. So you're saying that's false?
So no, that part's actually true. So what happened was the government came in, paid everyone a stipend, said we're buying up this land. We need reservoir water for Atlanta, and we need a power dam. And the town was already constantly flooding. The people moved out. They ended up building a dam, opening it, and it took several years. They took out what buildings they could, and it took several years for the water to actually fill. The water came to about half full pool, and this is where the incidents of bodies never being recovered or things hooking on to anchors and pulling them down. This is what happens. So, mind you, this is a rural Georgia town at the time. The water gets about the top of the treetops, and the government comes in on boats with chainsaws and just cuts the tops of the trees off. So all those trees are also still down there, tangling stuff up, getting caught up in everything. It's actually why a lot of people do not scuba dive in Lake Lanier. So that is the process of how the lake was made. The people actually, to my understanding, who were paid to leave but the water never reached their houses, got their homes back and actually made off pretty well because then they had lakefront property that they were able to sell. So that's the story of that. Now, again, it is a lake that have a story passed around it in the different counties, as well as anytime you get a large body of water, especially one that's generating electricity through a large dam, you're going to be getting some type of paranormal phenomena.
A lot of times, that's what it seems. Geographical, it seems that stuff like that, near bodies of water. Even David Pilates talks about that in his Can-Am Missing 411. A lot. It always those who go missing under that missing 411 criteria, that usually happens around bodies of water, and it's a lot of times granite, which is weird. So I mean, there's weird a lot of this high strength just seems to kind of there seems to be geographical or geological rather features to this, and I find it fascinating.
So, and there is a lot of granite around Lake Lanier, and a lot of granite specifically inside the what we're going to refer to as the Coal Mountain Triangle. Um, Also around the towns in Lake Lanier, which are inside that Coal Mountain Triangle, you find that just about every old building you go into is haunted, and they'll gladly tell you about it too.
Wow. But we ought to do some. We should take a first-hand look at some of this stuff sometime.
Sure.
We should
Absolutely.
go find us some eyewitnesses and talk to some people about this and see what we can come up with. And also, I think we ought to consider later on in the spring. I think maybe we ought to consider an expedition out there in the Dawson Forest.
I'd love to. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'd be down to spend the night out there and conduct an investigation.
Let's do it. I'm down.
I think that's a good idea. Now, I mean, neither one of you can be materializing out of nowhere in front of me, so. but I would be really interested to go and check that out.
When the lights go down, I admit a soft green glow from all the time I spent up there in the woods. But other than that, I'll just zip up in a sleeping bag. You won't even notice.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
Wow. Well, let's go to break. But when we come back in our third and last segment, I want to talk about what these things that we've been talking about, the Dawson Forest and then Lake Lanier, as y'all mentioned. I think this is. I really do believe, and I'm convinced that these may be a part of something much bigger and more significant. But let's talk about that when we come back. And you're listening to Project Stargate, the Dawson Forest, and the Coal Mountain Triangle. We'll be right back.
All right, Mark, Vince. We talked about Dawson Forest and a lot of the creepier stuff that happened up there. But we did, have a sense of humor while we were doing it. We came home from the forest after our first trip. Our dads had known we gone up there, my close friend and I, and so he went home, and his dad had taken this glow in the dark powder substance chalk something, sprinkled it around his room to make it look like that he had brought radiation into the house from the forest. And if that doesn't go down as one of the greatest pranks in all the time, I don't know what will.
That is a classic prank.
That is fine, man.
It's great.
So back now that we're back from our break, I want to talk about what all this may entail. This may all the stuff we talked about and more may be a part of something much bigger. Several years ago, I got this idea because I used to live in Ball Ground. I lived in Cumming. I've lived in Forsyth County and Pickens County, and I've lived in other counties as well. But I've lived in all these counties around here, and I've noticed that certain areas around here have a lot of anomalous phenomenon that happens. It's these certain areas, and what I've discovered is remarkable. Gentlemen, I want to show you something real quick. And for those of you listening, I'm going to describe this in as much detail as I can. Those of you who are watching on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like and subscribe, please. And I'm going to illustrate this for you in some detail so you can understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick here. There we go. And let me know, fellas, if you could see this.
I can see it.
Vince, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, very good. Let me zoom in here. I'm going to kind of move this up a little bit. Now I'm going to zoom in. Okay. All right. I zoomed in a little too much there. Hang on just a minute. All right. Okay. All right. So here's what we got. So here's Dawsonville. Okay. Here's Lake Lanier right here. Okay. Lake Lanier goes all the way through this area. So we have Dawsonville. We have Coal Mountain. Okay. We have Cumming, the city of Cumming. And then we can go this way. Now we're connecting we're connecting what looks like a triangle here. We're going through, it goes through Ball Ground. This is where I used to live right here in this area. Okay. All the way to Ellijay, which is right up here on the northwest. And then back, if you go southwest through Emma, Juneau, and then back to Dawsonville. Gentlemen, I give you the Coal Mountain Triangle. And the reason why I have coined that term is because in and around these areas, we have all these areas that have a lot of anomalous phenomena. In Ball Ground, in this area that I lived in, that area has for decades I've heard a lot of stories about satanic cults operating in and out of there. And I know for a fact that there's a lot of haunted locations in this area. But this at Dawsonville, we have the Dawson Forrest, we have Lake Lanier here, we got Coal Mountain, and we got Ellijay up here at the top on the north side. This area here has a lot of UFO sightings. I've seen pictures from eyewitnesses of UFO sightings. I want to hear both your thoughts, and I want to start with you, Vince.
I think so. I don't really know. I've never really heard of Ellijay. This is the first time I've ever heard of this town, but I have heard of some of the other places here, and I've heard stories about some of the other places in this area. And I think it's plausible given the history of this area. We have a large body of water with granite. And then also along with that history, we've had a lot of, tragic things that happen here and things like that. So that actually sounds very plausible. I'd like to hear more about this. Like, how did you figure out that this could be happening? Like, this is what's happening here. Where did you come up with this theory?
So from you can go for one thing, MUFON. You can look at UFO reports. Right. There are UFO reports in and out of MUFON. I know I've personally met several eyewitnesses to a lot of phenomenon that's happened in all these areas. And that's why I came up with this hypothesis that there may be a triangle area, because we do seem to be along a ley line as well, apparently, that goes to the northeast, I believe, towards North Carolina.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
so that's why.
Actually really intriguing. Yeah, that's intriguing.
And just look at the map, I put it all together. I was like, wow. The other day, I was like, wow, I may have been right. I believe I am right. And this map here illustrates this. Dawsonville through all the way through Silver City, Coal Mountain, Cumming, and then extending from there. It extends through Ball Ground northwest through to Ellijay in that area, this whole area right here, and then it shoots back towards Dawsonville. And in and around this area, there's a lot of high strangeness and anomalous phenomenon that occurs. Jake.
Yes, sir. So most of my experience comes out of Cumming, Forsyth County area. That is where I grew up. And it seemed like just about everywhere you would go in that town, there was something haunted. Two examples being actually what was, I forget the name. I think it was Lanier Elementary or Cumming Elementary, something. The old school building, which is now the Playhouse in the middle of town, is actually an extremely haunted venue, as well as the restaurant downstairs. Staff has said, glasses thrown across the bar, feeling like they're being chased up the stairs, all sorts of cold spots, apparitions. Up in the Playhouse area, I spoke with a gentleman there, a curator to the Historical Society. He had 2 incidents himself, and one that he gave to me secondhand. His first incident being that he was closing up one night and was walking down the hallway and heard something rattle from behind him and start really rattling. And he turned around and he saw the old, the old coil heaters from the old buildings that are bolted into the walls.
Yes.
He said one of those was shaking violently back and forth.
Wow.
Apparently this one was not. I don't know if it wasn't bolted in or what the case was, but it ended up falling forward, ripping a piece of the wall out. Or did it? Actually, no, I don't believe it ripped a piece of the wall out. I believe it ripped a chunk of the machine off.
Wow.
Another incident, he said he was closing one night, going into the restrooms. He was the only one in the building, went into the restroom, closed the stall door. Apparently footsteps came in, and he saw footsteps under the stall door, and he thought, this is weird. The only one's supposed to be in here. He gets up, looks around, there was no one else in there.
Wow.
His third account that he told me came from someone who worked in the restaurant, where the main playhouse is now. Apparently was a gymnasium. They were downstairs prep cooking or doing something, and heard what sounded like shuffling feet in a basketball being bounced upstairs.
Wow. The cemetery over there by the new jail in downtown Cumming?
Yep.
I wish Greg was here, man. I miss Greg, man. Me and him we went out there one night and just kind of looked around. It was past midnight.
Sure.
And we had a lot of experiences. We had some experiences out there, caught some evidence too. I'm trying to find those pictures on a hard drive, an old hard drive I have, because we caught some very interesting, we caught some faces, what looked like some apparitional faces of some kind, green balls of energy. I mean, it was really interesting place.
I know the cemetery you're talking about. Actually, during 4th of July, my family would go sit on the old parking deck that would overlook that cemetery, and the kids would all, go in the cemetery during, the night to freak each other out. But it always had an eerie feeling, a creepy feeling around it. So I would definitely believe that if you had the pictures. Even if you didn't, I believe it.
One of the things, the piece of evidence that we caught at that time, and it looked like a face of a man that was kind of a little bit heavy set, I guess, with a beard kind of like mine, but maybe a little bit more broad, I guess. And that matches a description of an apparition that's been seen in the past that I found out, of a man carrying a Bible or a book or something walking through the cemetery.
So I've actually heard that story growing up.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
I did. I heard that story growing up. Again, that was a town from 0 to 24. No, I'm sorry. 0 to 18. I lived in that town. So I grew up there. My family still lives in the house I grew up in, so they're still around there. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the urban legends around there.
When I was working at one of the mega retailers one night. A woman came in, and I worked in an electronics department area, and we had a photo laboratory and everything back there. This woman comes up to the counter, and she's like, I need help getting these pictures developed. I said, okay. And I took her camera and took the card out, put them in there, and uploaded them. And I started going through the pictures and everything. And I came across a picture she took with her cell phone. And it was a really bright blue light gleaming through the trees. And I didn't see any street lights or anything else around it. There's no, it was just trees. There weren't any power lines or any
Sure.
or anything like that going through the picture. So And I'm saying, okay, so what is this right here? She goes, oh, that's a UFO that followed me through LJ. Yep.
Just plain as day, she said, "Oh, that's a UFO."
Yeah. And see, I've had a
said,
lot of UFO sightings out in there. I've had tons of UFO sightings.
So she said it a matter of fact, like it was just an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had another encounter with a guy one time working at the same place. And I'll never forget this as long as I live, guys. So this guy, he was in a wheelchair or one of those motorized chair things. And I was helping him in the photo lab again, same kiosk actually. And it must be that special kiosk or something, you know. And anyway, he said he was in a retired airline pilot for some airline. I can't remember which airline it was, but anyway, so we just kind of was having a friendly conversation, and curiosity got the best of me. I looked him dead in the eye, and I said, "Sir, in your entire career, have you ever had an encounter with an unidentified flying object?" And he looked up at me and says, "Yes, not once, but twice. And one time I almost ran right into it, but I had never told anyone. And I wish I could have gotten that guy's information and interviewed him, but I didn't do that stuff. I didn't do that stuff back then. Very chilling. It was very chilling to me, the way he said it to me and the look on his face. I mean, you could just tell. You could tell this guy's telling the truth, Vince.
Mm. Wow. Well, wow. It's like I said, I some of these places I don't, since I'm not from here, I might actually want to go and check some of these places out because I've heard a lot of the stories that people tell me secondhand, of course, have been in a lot of these areas. Not quite up north. I didn't know about the other places, but I'd heard about Dawsonville before. I didn't know where it was before, or Lake Lanier. All these places you hear about this stuff. So sounds pretty fascinating. I'd like to go investigate some of these places myself.
Yeah, me too, man. And we will sometime. But anyway, that's the Coal Mountain Triangle, man. That's why I've had this feeling in my gut for years that there was something about this area, because I kept over the last several years, especially I've been putting these pieces of the puzzle together, and it just dawned on me. It was like, wow, there it is. I'm looking at this map of the area of North Georgia, and it was right there staring me in the face.
So now that you've done this research, where are you going to go from here with it? Are you going to do a little bit more research and see if you can tie more dots to, connect more dots?
Yeah, and the more help, the better. I think we should start a Facebook group where people can contribute and tell their stories, and maybe we can maybe if we can reach out to the community, maybe we can find some people with unique stories that will contribute to this idea.
That sounds interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be very, I'll call it we'll call it something like Coal Mountain Paranormal or something. I think that's a good idea. Let's start a group where people will have these conversations. Maybe, who knows people might reach out to us, and we might find some prospective eyewitnesses that we can interview and bring them on into our research here.
So the name's going to be Coal Mountain Paranormal?
Yeah, I'm gonna make an announcement on our page. That's a cool name, actually. I like it too. Coal Mountain Paranormal. I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check and make sure we're not imposing on anyone there. I don't think we are. I seriously doubt. Let's see what we got.
If we are, we should reach out to them because they're local.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Coal Mountain Paranormal. And let's see. Nope. We're good. We are good, guys. Nope. No Coal Mountain Paranormal. So that's what we're going to do. I think we're going to, Jake, would you be willing to help me get this going pretty soon?
Absolutely.
Okay. And Vince, We'll talk more about this later as well. But at any rate, man, did you, before we wrap this up, Jake, you said you had some more stories you wanted to tell about
You know,
Dawson Forrest?
about Dawson Forrest. I think I went through all the interesting ones. Definitely different encounters of running into, just odd people in the woods. It seems like a place that attracts all the carnival freaks, just about everything you would find up there. Just a real quick funny story, walking through the woods with a group, you know, um, an outdoors kind of group. We're walking down a trail. This has nothing to do with the nuclear facility. This trail, it's a nature trail. About a mile and a half, 2 miles down, and this girl comes out of the woods and starts walking towards us. She's between 18 and 22, I would say. Wearing like short shorts, bike shorts, and a tank top, hair pulled back, barefoot. And we see her and we're like, "Oh my God, are you okay? What's going on?"
Wow.
She looks us stone cold in the face and goes, "I'm fine. Why?" Well, I don't know. You're in your underwear in the middle of the woods.
Wow.
She just kept walking down. But yeah, you bump into people like that all the time in the woods up there.
That's bizarre. That's really bizarre, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I guess people don't like to. They don't seem to want to wear clothes in the woods because that seems to keep happening.
Yeah, that does seem to keep happening up there.
It does,
so,
doesn't it, man?
It does. It does. Well, if you want to be left alone and don't want anyone to see you, that's the area to do it.
I guess so. It seems so. You could just get in the buff and hang out for a little while up there.
Definitely. I advise it. It's great.
Oh yeah. Anybody listening, we might start getting a lot of sightings there. We'll know what the source is.
Yeah, I got it from Project Stargate Friends Research. They heard it there first.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you guys.
And did it. But
I'll be honest with you guys. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to tell you all those Bigfoot sightings up there. I just used to go skinny dipping up there, and people would catch me on video every once in a while. It's just me.
That's a good way. That's probably a good way to start a Bigfoot sighting. But it sounds to me too like it's just one of those places. You come to places where you just not only do you have interesting things happening, but the people are just as like the people that are alive are just as strange and interesting. Like it's like that.
Strange attracts strange. That's for sure. So it definitely makes for good people watching up there.
Maybe that's part of the energy too, though. Like maybe that's just
definitely.
I think we talk about this all the time. Like I think that energy is the start with everything. Like that's the seed that creates all of these things that we sit and talk about. So maybe that's like you said, strange begets strange.
Yep.
Maybe we're like
Absolutely.
Some of us are like biological telekinetic amplifiers.
Maybe so. But I would actually like to explore that more and I'd like to help out when I can. If you guys are doing something, I'd like to actually go and check that out. That sounds really interesting.
We should have a parapsychologist to come on the program and talk about how human beings can affect the environment around them. I think we ought to talk about that sometime.
I think we take it one step further and we find a parapsychologist or someone with some type of telepathic abilities. Bring them to Dawson Forrest and not tell them the history behind it. Just tell them, hey, I want to take you to an area and see if you can get a reading.
Yeah, somebody who has some kind of remote viewing or clairvoyant ability. That'd be interesting, man. That'd be cool. That'd be awesome, man. Good stuff, guys.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Man. Well, this has been a great conversation, man. I appreciate both of your time, and I've had a good time. I think we've really gone over a lot and over the past several hours, and it's been really good, man. And I appreciate both of you being here.
Good. Thanks for having us, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. All right. You're listening to Project Stargate Friends Research, and this was the Coal Mountain Triangle and the Dawson Forrest area and installation. Thank you for listening, and please remember to like and subscribe and share this on social media. Have a great day.